Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Introduction to Agrometrology. So this is the seventh part of this chapter and this is almost the last. So in this part we are going to study about the climate change. Okay, so climate change in relation to the crop production. So basically we are going to study about how the climate change affect the crop production. Okay, so let us first understand the climatic variability. What is the meaning of the climatic variability? So the temporal change, temporal means time-based change. This is called time-based change. Okay, so temporal change in weather phenomena, which is a part of general circulation of atmosphere and occur on early basis on a globe scale. So this gives you the climatic variability. So in a due course of time, we see that the weather phenomena are not the same. Okay, on the yearly basis or the monthly basis, you see that the weather is kept on changing, right? So that gives you the climatic variability. The climate change and the climatic variability are concern of humankind in recent decade all over the world. Now we are all talking about the climate change because the temperature of the earth are increasing day by day. Okay, there is lot of floods every year. There is lot of droughts even. Okay, in the summer there we can see landslides. Okay, and also the forest fire. So all these comes under the climate change and that is due to the climatic variability. The recurrent drought and desertification seriously threaten the livelihood of over 1 to 2 billion people who depend on the land for most of their needs. So we are totally depends on the land resources. Okay, land resources. And if there is a drought or desertification, then our economy will be affected as well as the livelihood of the people are affected. And there is a data that shows that 1 to 2 billion people has been severely affected in the recent drought and desertification. Okay, so the weather related disasters, the disasters that are weather related, that are dependent on the weather, that is droughts and floods, ice storms, dust storms, landslides, thundercloud associated with the lightning and forest fires are uncommon over one or other region of the world. So these are the very common type of weather related disasters. So we see that there is a drought and floods every year, almost every year in some or the other part of the world, right? We also see the ice storms, dust storms, landslides, thundercloud associated with the lightning and also the forest fire. Right? So just now we in the recent past years we have seen the forest fire in the case in the Australia and also in the Amazon basin, right? So these are two of the most disastrous thing happen to the forest. Okay, so these are the disaster related are due to the change of the weather, right? Cause of climatic variability. Now, why there is climatic variability? What are the reason behind this climatic variability? So the first one is external causes. What are the external causes? Solar output. An increase in solar output by 0.3 when compared to the 1650 to 1700 AD. So if we are comparing to this particular year, right, we see that there is an solar output increased by 0.3%. So we see that 0.3% as a percentage is very less. But if we compare that the solar radiation coming to the Earth's surface. So that this much percentage is also uh, bring a lot of change in the atmosphere of the Earth, right? So this is the external, one of the external cause, that is the solar output. Second, orbital variation. Orbital variation. The Earth orbit varies from almost a complete circle to marked ellipse, that is eccentricity. Okay, and wobble of the Earth axis, that is the precession of the equinox. Now what is this? So although if we compare the desktop globe, suppose this is a desktop globe, so although a desktop globe always spins smoothly, it is spin very smoothly, okay, around the axis, running through its north and south poles, north and south poles, okay, a real planet wobble. So this is very smoothly. If we take any globe and put it on the desktop, then it spin on its axis very smoothly. But the Earth's spin axis drifts slowly around the poles. It pulls slowly around the poles. The farthest away it has wobbled since observation begins is 37 feet. That is around 12 meters. That is around 12 meters. Okay, so that is the wobble of Earth axis. Tilt of the Earth axis of rotation relative to the plane of the orbit varies between 21.8 degree to 24.4. So this is not a very smooth. Sometimes there is a variation on the rotation on the Earth axis. Rotation of the Earth on its axis, that varies between 21.8 degree to 24.4 degree. Okay. So this is the orbital variation. So this orbital variation causes change. That also causes change in the weather. Internal causes. Now, change in the atmospheric composition. Okay, change in atmospheric composition means composition of gases like composition of nitrogen, oxygen, okay, carbon dioxide, very important. So change in the atmospheric composition, change in the greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide. So what is the speciality of these greenhouse gases? The greenhouse gases are present in the layer, okay, and what they do, when the sunlight or the solar radiation comes along with the light, they are having heat. So that heat get trapped in the layers of greenhouse gases, in the layer of greenhouse gases. Okay, and that increases the Earth temperature. So this change in the atmospheric composition, change in the greenhouse gases, especially that is the carbon dioxide. Land surface change, particularly the afforestation and deforestation. So when we change the surface of the land also, then also there is a change in the weather, right? So if there is a deforestation or afforestation, then there is a change in the weather. Okay. So these internal causes also affect our weather. Third one, the internal dynamics of the southern oscillation, that is changes in the sea surface temperature in the western tropical Pacific Ocean, that is El Nino and El Nina. This is very, very important. So what is El Nino? So El Nino is the warming of water in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, in the Pacific Ocean near the South America. Near the South America, the water in the Pacific Ocean get warm, right? And generally associated with the weakening of monsoon winds. So it weakens the monsoon wind, and the India, okay, our country, get affected with these change in the weather. This change in the weather, that is El Nino. Okay. La Nina. Now what is La Nina? La Nina comes water in the eastern Pacific to be colder than the usual. So that also affect the weather. That also affect the weather. This is just opposite of the El Nino, that is La Nina. So these coupled with the Southern Oscillation Index, the Tahiti minus Darwin normalized pressure index, leading to the ENSO phenomena. So these are very, very important, that is El Nino and La Nina. Anthropogenic causes of the climatic variation in the greenhouse gases and the aerosols. So when there is increase in the greenhouse gases or the aerosol, this is due to the anthropogenic causes. This is due to the change in the weather by man, by us. Okay, so this climatic variation is because of our activity, human activity, that is anthropogenic causes, increase in the greenhouse gases or aerosols. Okay. Now, what will be the effect of these climatic change? What will be the effect of these climatic change? Increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are expected to increase the temperature of the earth. So just now I have told you that these greenhouse gases, including the carbon dioxide, it traps the solar radiation and increases the temperature of the earth. So the crop production is the weather dependent, right? Our crop production is totally dependent on the weather. Now, if there is increase in the temperature of the earth, this weather will not be same. It get changed. And any change will have a major effect on the crop production and productivity, right? So if we are changing the weather and our crop is totally depend on the weather condition, and we are changing the weather, right? So the weather will not be same. So our crop production and productivity will be severely affected, right? Next, the elevated carbon dioxide and temperature affects the biological processes like respiration, photosynthesis, plant growth, reproduction, and water use. Very, very important. So the carbon dioxide is a very important gas, okay, and this gas is required as a raw material in the process of photosynthesis, we all know, right? So if there is a change in the percentage of carbon dioxide, so the photosynthesis will be affected, respiration will be affected. And if these two are the very important metabolic activities in the plants, so the plant growth and its reproduction will also be affected. So basically, total crop production and its productivity will be badly affected, right? So, depending on the latitude of the CO2 may either offer a beneficial effect or may behave otherwise also, right? Detecting climate trends is complicated by the fact that there are many natural variation in the temperature, precipitation, and other climatic variables. So every year we see that there is a fluctuation of temperature, there is a precipitation. Sometime in this year the precipitation is more, the rain is more, and sometime the next year the precipitation is less as we compare to the past some of the years, right? So these climatic variables gives out the change, and that change can be seen in the form of crop productivity and its production, right? Okay. So these natural variations are caused by many different processes that occur across a wide range of time scales. So why these natural variations are there? Why these natural variations are occur on the earth, right? So that these natural variations brings a lot of change, okay, in the form of climate change. El Nino and La Nina, which are the periods of the natural warming and cooling in the tropical Pacific Ocean. Just now we have discussed this, that how El Nino and La Nina brings out the change in the Pacific Ocean, and that affects the weather of the India, that is the monsoon. Strong El Nino and La Nina events are associated with the significant year-to-year change in the temperature and rainfall pattern across many parts of the planet, including United States and India also, right? So this is very, very important from the examination point of view. Climate change mitigation and adaptation in the agriculture. So, assist farmers in coping with the current climatic risk by providing value-added weather services to the farmers. So, how to cope up with these climate change, right? So, we should provide value-added weather services to the farmers so that they can cope with the current climatic risk. Okay, so how can we do that? Farmers can adapt to the climate change to some degree by shifting planting dates. They can shift the planting dates, choosing varieties with the different growth duration, or changing the crop rotation. So there are many phenomena that can be adapted to cope up with this climatic change. The one is the crop rotation. The one is the crop rotation. The other is the choosing varieties, choosing different varieties. Different varieties. Suppose there is a prediction of drought. There is a prediction of drought. So in this particular condition, we can choose a species that can be grown in a drought or less water availability, right? We can choose a variety of a crop that can be grown in a less availability of water, right? So, and also by shifting the planting dates, by shifting the planting dates, we can overcome with the climate change. We can overcome with the climate change. So crop rotation, choosing different varieties, and the shifting the planting dates, we can cope up to some extent with the climate change, right? But this is due to this can only be occur if we provide value-added weather services to the farmers, because farmers are not aware with such conditions, right? So they can be made aware by weather forecasting, that we have already discussed in the past session, that how the weather forecasting can tell you that in a forthcoming days, then we can have such type of weather, and on the basis of this prediction, we can plan our agriculture or cropping pattern. An early warning system should be put in place to monitor change in pest and disease outbreaks. So there should be early warning system, that the farmer should know that in this particular weather condition, such type of pest can affect their crop. So they can be aware with it, and they can be like fully equipped, and they can have such type of pest control strategy. They can have a pest control strategy. So this program be based on integrated pest management, okay, and it take care of multiple pests in a given climatic scenario. So if we plan in such a way, then we can get rid of the pest also. Participatory and the formal plant breeding to develop climate resilient crop varieties. We can improve our crop varieties based on the plant breeding that can tolerate high temperature. So we can have a plant breeding program so that we can develop a crop varieties that can tolerate high temperature, drought, and also the salinity. So like this, we can overcome the climate change, right? Developing short duration crop varieties that can mature before the peak heat phase set in. So we can have a short duration crop varieties, right? So it cannot comes the we can have developing short duration crop varieties that can mature before the peak heat phase. So they can bypass the peak heat phase as they get mature early. Okay, so these short duration crop varieties can bypass the peak heat phase, right? Selecting genotype in crops that have a higher per day yield potential to counter yield loss from heat induced reduction in the growing period. So we can choose such type of crops that are having a higher yield, and they can tolerate heat also. So these type of crops are very, very helpful to us. Preventive measure for drought that include on farm reservoirs in medium lands, growing of pulses and oilseed instead of rice in uplands, ridges and furrow system in the cotton crops, growing of intercrops in place of pure crops in uplands. So these are the different types of cropping pattern that we can adapt, right, to overcome the changes, to overcome the weather changes or the weather climatic variability. So such type of adaptation in growing crop pattern, we can overcome the climatic variability. Land grading and leveling, stabilization of the field bunds by stone and grasses, graded line bunds, contour trenching for the runoff collection, conservation furrows, mulching, and more application to the farmyard manure. So if we follow such type of things in our crop growing pattern, then we can overcome the phenomena that is called as climate change, right? So land grading, leveling, stabilizing fields and bunds, okay, graded land burns, contour trenching, mulching, and application of farmyard manure. By making our own farmyard manure, we can overcome such type of climatic variability. Efficient water use such as frequent but shallow irrigation, drip and sprinkler irrigation, we can save our water. Okay, and also we can adapt such type of drip or the sprinkler irrigation where the availability of water is very less. So we can adapt such type of watering to the crop. Okay, so irrigation at the critical stages. When the irrigation are at the critical stages, we can adapt such type of irrigation pattern. Efficient fertilizer use. Efficient fertilizer use such as optimum fertilizer dose, split application of nitrogenous and potassium fertilizers, deep placement use of neem and Karanja products and other such nitrification inhibitors, limiting of acid soils, use of micronutrients such as zinc and boron, use of sulfur in oilseed crops, integrated nutrients management. So if the farmers are having a knowledge of micronutrients required by a particular crop, then they can use such type of micronutrients in their soil, right? They can use a required fertilizer to a particular crop, right? So if we follow such type of things in our growing or cropping pattern, then we can overcome such type of climatic variability. Seasonal weather forecast should be used as a supportive measure. So this is very, very important. Weather forecast, according to that, we can plan our cropping pattern, right? And that is very supportive measure to optimize planting and irrigation pattern. So if we are having a alarm that this time or this year we are not having a proper rainfall, then we can plan our irrigation pattern. We can plan our planting pattern, right? So such type of seasonal weather forecast are very helpful for adapting the crop pattern and also the irrigation pattern. Provide greater coverage of weather-linked agriculture insurance. Okay, so farmers can go for the agriculture insurance also. Intensify the food production system by improving the technology and input delivery system. So we can intensify our food production system by improving the technology. So if we follow these technology, if we follow the new irrigation pattern, if we follow the new crop pattern, if we follow seasonal weather forecast, okay, so we can intensify our food production system and we can improve the crop production and productivity, right? Adopt resource conservation technologies such as no-tillage, laser and leveling, direct seeding of rice and crop diversification, which will help in reducing the global warming potential. Crop diversification can be done by growing non-paddy crops in rain and fed uplands to farm better under prolonged soil moisture stress in the Kharif season. So what are the Kharif season? Kharif season are the season in monsoon, like monsoon crops are called as Kharif crop, right? So sometimes we are having less rainfall. So at that particular time, we can crop non-paddy crops, right? So if we follow such type of pattern change of our cropping, that is our traditional cropping pattern, and also the irrigation pattern, we follow the weather forecast, then we can overcome such type of climatic variability and we can improve our crop production and productivity. This is the crux of this climatic change in relation to the crop production, right? So this is all about of this chapter, right? We will meet with one more session. Thank you very much.